And now we know why Laurie is Laurie. This book did have a profound effect on me because I went through a lot of what you guys are going through right now, where I was like, Pierre Anton has a point. Team Pierre. And then everything else. And eventually they had to go home and leave Jesus lying in the moldy sawdust in the middle of the floor. Did you understand the loss of innocence thing then? I knew what it meant, sort of, when I read it. And the visual of the little cloth with some blood and slime on it was interesting. I remember rereading this section and trying to understand it. So that's about where I was. I literally, I don't know if I can even, like, I just remember rereading the chapter to try and, I mean, I'd seen movies and shit, you know, like, I think I knew a little bit of what was going on, but it was, like, I don't think I knew what rape was. Excuse me while my mind is blown. The non-consensual part of it shocked me. And, like, the rape thing. Yep. Women. It was a real problem. The matter of Jesus and the rosewood in the sawdust. There were others besides Holy Carl who didn't think it proper. They broke Jesus' legs like he owed them money. It's some good comic relief after the rape scene, so. It was a real problem, the matter of Jesus and the rosewood cross in the sawdust. There were others besides Holy Carl who didn't think it proper. Cinderella, however, didn't care whether it was proper or not, and refused to let Jesus anywhere near the heap of meaning. It didn't matter what we did. Diddle, diddly dog. No amount of coaxing or tidbits made any impression on her. And none of us wanted to get on the wrong side of those snapping jaws. After several hours, we were feeling like giving up and going home. It was getting close to supper time. But then I remembered the night we'd taken the coffin with little Emil Jensen inside. Maybe she thinks it's Jesus who took Sorensen away from her, I suggested. Maybe she thinks it's Jesus that took Sorensen away from her, I suggested. So it was, too, Otto said, laughing. No, seriously, I persisted. Yeah, seriously, Otto laughed. And I got mad. Elise broke in and said I was right. That we'd never get Jesus and the rosewood cross onto the heap of meaning as long as Cinderella was keeping guard of it. The first one, right side. Sort of. Maybe she thinks it's Jesus who took Sorensen away from her, I suggested. So it was too, Otto said, laughing. No, seriously, I persisted. Yes, seriously, Otto laughed, and I got mad. Elise broke in and said I was right, and that we'd never get Jesus and the Rosewood Cross onto the heap of meaning as long as Cinderella was keeping guard of it. We thought about what she said for a long time. For Jesus on the cross somehow wasn't going to matter much in the final count if he didn't get onto the heap. We'll just chop him up into smaller pieces, Huge Hans suggested. No! Exclaimed Holy Carl. And even though none of us could care less about Holy Carl as far as this was concerned, neither did any of us think it was a good idea. It was like the meaning would go out of Jesus if we chopped him up into pieces. Then we'll paint him black, so Cinderella won't recognize him, Sebastian suggested. No, it won't be the same, Jan Johann protested. And all of us agreed. A black Jesus just wasn't the same. What if we put Jesus on the heap while I'm out walking Cinderella? Suggested Elise. What if we put Jesus on the heap while I'm out walking her? Suggested Elise. And now no one had any objections. The same evening after supper, we went back to the sawmill. Elise put Cinderella on a leash, and as soon as they were out the door, Jan Johann and Huge Hans took hold of Jesus and lugged him over to the heap of meaning. Jesus was too heavy to be put on top. So instead they placed him so he stood, leaning up against the heap. The Dannebrog was aloft. A boxing glove slid down and disappeared from sight. The snake in formaldehyde rolled ominously. And Oscar Little squealed. Jesus on the rosewood cross was a part of the meaning. Out of consideration for Cinderella's feelings, we'd placed Jesus as far from little Emil's coffin as he could get, way over on the opposite side of the heap. Not that I think it made any difference where Jesus was put, for what Cinderella did next. Elise gave her 3 short and 3 long knocks at the door of the sawmill. We all moved well away from the heap of meaning. Jan Johann opened the door and Elise walked in, with Cinderella plodding slowly along behind her. The dog was puffing and panting like a boiled-out kettle, and looked like she was going to collapse any minute. But no sooner had the leash removed than she lifted her head, nosed the air like a sprightly young pup, and trotted elegantly and without effort, her tail aloft, over to the heap of meaning, where she sniffed a moment at Jesus on the rosewood cross before squatting halfway up the cross and peeing on Jesus right about the midriff. Pee pee, piddly piss, oh my Lord. Gerda giggled. The rest of us uttered not a sound. It's a statue that they ripped off of the wall of the church. You know those full-size Jesuses that you see in churches? They stole it from the church and broke both of its legs on accident in the meanwhile. That's the funniest thing I've ever heard. It's not actually Jesus. Pee pee piddly piss, oh my Lord. Gerda giggled. The rest of us uttered not a sound. The consequences of Cinderella's behavior were quite incalculable. We would never be able to return a pissed-on Jesus statue to the church. Nevertheless, one by one, we all began to laugh. All that piety was just too comical, with Cinderella's yellow fluid running down the sides and onto the broken stumps that had been legs, then dripping down onto the sawdust. It'll buff out. And anyways, with 2 broken legs, Jesus wasn't doing too good to begin with. We laughed and laughed. And there was a good feeling now. And after a while, Sophie went and got her stereo tape deck. Piety. Don't say piety, dude. It's not a play on deity. Piety is like, it's the feeling of worship. Or like good like, I don't know, like, it is the feeling or the action of worship. Like, you have piety. Like, you have familial piety. It means that you worship God and your family. I don't know what I'm saying. Anyways, I think it's I think it's meant to be pronounced piety. I'm going to call it piety because that is how I was taught. All that pee. Jesus wasn't doing too good to begin with. We laughed and laughed, and there was a good feeling now. And after a while, Sophie went and got her stereo tape deck. Well, I say pious and then piety. Leave me alone. Sophie went and got her tape deck so we could have some music. And we sang and screeched and had a real time for ourselves until we realized it was past 9 o'clock. The tape was turned off and we flew off home in all directions. Imagine if some grown-ups had gone out looking for us and heard the noise from the old sawmill. The end. They just had a pissin' on Jesus party.